Friday, March 20th, and this is now on HNN.
Please cooperate with your governor, cooperate with your mayor. It's very important.
New York now joins California, ordering citizens to remain home unless necessary.
When we need something, we order something.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration attempts to ease fears and says there's no plans for a national lockdown.
There is no greater moral crime than betraying your country in a time of crisis.
A handful of senators are accused of selling stocks just before the coronavirus crisis. I'm Skyler Henry on Capitol Hill with their response and calls for their resignation.
It's a little ridiculous.
This has become the hot commodity during the coronavirus pandemic. People are clearing store shelves. Some are even calling 911 when they run out. I'm Michael George with how businesses are responding to the high demand.
These stories, and the state is now investigating price gouging complaints. Coming up on This Is Now. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jonathan alongside Mahea today. Thanks for watching This Is Now. You know, we want to talk about the virus. It's on everyone's mind. There are now more than 16,000 reported cases of coronavirus in the U.S. That's nearly quadrupling the number that we saw on Monday.
And the death toll is up to 216 and counting. California and New York have ordered citizens to remain home unless necessary. The Trump administration is trying to calm fears and keep the economy afloat during the coronavirus pandemic. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
President Trump is trying to ease the fears of the American public, downplaying the possibility of a nationwide lockdown.
We're working with the governors, and I don't think we'll ever find that necessary.
But he praised the governors of New York and California who took that significant step, ordering residents to stay at home except for essential services.
We need everyone to be safe. Otherwise, no one can be safe.
New York also says it's still in dire need of critical medical equipment such as masks and ventilators. The president says he's activated the Defense Production Act to increase supply.
We have millions of masks which are coming and which will be distributed to the states. The states are having a hard time getting them, so we're using the act.
The administration also announced it's closing the southern border to non-essential travel, the same step it's taken with the northern border.
Neither of these agreements with Canada or Mexico applies to lawful trade or commerce.
On Capitol Hill, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has set a midnight deadline to finalize an agreement on a $1 trillion economic stimulus plan.
We expect to have an agreement by the end of today.
It would include relief for small businesses, loans to major industries impacted, and cash for individuals based on income and family size.
If your business is shut down, you've been laid off, you need money, not a one-time check.
Goldman Sachs is predicting as many as 2 million people could file for unemployment benefits this week alone. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
All right, Mahea's been on the phone this morning working her sources. We're also hearing of some other protests in the works. We saw them earlier on other islands. You were on the phone with a Hawaii County council member, right? What's going on?
That's right. His name is Matt Kaneali'i Kleinfelder, and at 1 p.m. this afternoon, the Hawaii County Council is going to have an emergency meeting, and this will include Hawaii County Mayor Harry Kim. Earlier today, we heard, in addition to this protest that we're seeing on Molokai, there was a small protest outside of the Hawaii County building. This was just a very small gathering. We're told it was very peaceful. There was no shouting, but people are now demanding that Hawaii County, and they want the mayor to shut down the county. There are concerns of coronavirus. Right now, there is only one confirmed case in the county of Hawaii, but people are asking, what are the numbers it's going to take to shut down the county? Because they're looking at the actions of Kauai County, which is now basically closed down at night,
Curfew
right?
starts very soon. Yeah.
And then there are several measures in Honolulu County in terms of what the mayor has said. So what Hawaii County residents are saying, according to Matt Kaneali'i Kleinfelder, is they are demanding that the county shut down. And Hawaii County mayor, up until this point, has said, reevaluate your plans.
Just
There's
leaving
no
it up to
shutdown.
them.
Right,
Yeah.
leaving it up to them. Reevaluate your plans. If you're going to have an event, make sure that you mitigate any risk factors. And this is really upsetting several of the council members who are getting bombarded with emails. And let's hear what they had to say.
Usually, county workers are very quiet, but in this case, I have had, I'd say, 100 emails over the last 3 days saying, ask Harry Kim, ask the county council to shut down the county. Keep us safe. Keep our families safe. And the first one was one thing, but after a couple hundred emails from everyone across the county, from real property tax to DMV to every department, you have to take that seriously. And you can't ignore that. There are no clear rules that say public gatherings over X amount of people are not to happen. So without that rule, the police cannot respond. The communities can't respond. It's the same old. It's business as usual. You have to balance public health over the economy. At this point, it is imperative and it would be irresponsible of this county to continue to operate in business as usual without taking into account public health.
And that was the council member talking there. We're also hearing from other lawmakers and even Lieutenant Josh Green sort of promoting this idea of a shutdown, right?
That's right. The chorus seems to be growing louder and louder. And what people are doing is they're looking at what's happening in New York City. They're looking at what's happening in Seattle, and they're seeing that things are basically shut down. Not the essential services. Grocery stores are still open. The essential services are still open. Yeah. But as you just heard from the council member, the county workers, and there are thousands of them, they are demanding a shutdown, and they say that the public health should be put over the economy. And these are the decisions that our county leaders and our state leaders are grappling with right now, because clearly tourism will start to dry up. It is drying up.
Is. Yeah, and you sent this to me earlier. There's also another protest route in the works. It looks like this is circulating on social media as well.
This is circulating on social media. As far as we know, this is not a permitted activity. What we are learning is that people are going to be driving from the Honolulu airport starting at 3 p.m. and then driving through Waikiki all the way till 6 o'clock in the afternoon. This is going to be this afternoon. We're learning that people are planning to stay in their cars, so they don't want to get out of their cars, and like some of the other convoys that we've seen. But at this point, it's really unclear how many people will show up to this. I can tell you, Jonathan, that there is a conflict in terms of people's opinions of this. There is an anti-tourism sentiment out there. There is a sentiment of we need to keep businesses open and protect our economy.
All right, and speaking of that, there's a new cruise ship that's docked down there at the harbor in Honolulu. But passengers aren't allowed to get off. We sent our Casey Lunn down there this morning. Just hours ago, he filed this report we're going to show you to see what exactly is going on.
Got to think Oahu probably looks like a shimmering island of hope for those folks that have been aboard this boat for more than a month, some of them. But unfortunately, as you said, they will not be allowed to disembark here. Both the Maasdam and the Norwegian Jewel, which is expected into the harbor on Sunday, will only be allowed to fuel up and resupply and then head back out to sea. Now, all cruise ship operations are on a 30-day pause here in Hawaii, which took effect on March 14th. State officials say the Maasdam has just shy of 850 passengers and more than 500 crew on board. The Norwegian Jewel has around 1,700 passengers. We're told that so far, neither ship has any reported or confirmed cases of COVID-19. Now, the Department of Transportation says that allowing the more than 2,500 passengers between those two ships to disembark here would further strain the state's resources. The Norwegian Jewel left Australia late last month and has already been turned away by Fiji, New Zealand, and French Polynesia, and that, of course, must be creating a frustrating situation for those passengers on board. Back to you guys in the studio.
And here's a closer look at Hawaii, where COVID-19 cases are located. There are 18 on Oahu, 5 on Maui, 2 on Kauai, and 1 on Hawaii Island. So the total number of confirmed cases is now at 26. There were 10 new cases that were just announced yesterday, and among those were State Senator Clarence Nishihara and a civilian employee at Tripler Army Medical Center. Nishihara said that he had recently returned from Las Vegas. The Tripler employee had recently traveled to New York.
As these cases keep mounting and all sorts of rule changes going into effect right now.
Oahu County lifeguards are also going into mobile response operations today. Ocean Safety says crews will be patrolling trucks rather than on beaches. Now, if someone is in distress in the ocean or on the beach, call 911. That's what the county is saying. Lifeguards weren't on duty yesterday due to the safety stand down, and they said that crews did not have proper equipment to protect themselves from someone potentially affected with COVID-19.
And those restaurants here in town getting those enforcement rules going into effect, right?
That's right. It's important to remember that Oahu restaurants are ordered to end all dine-in services. Today was the official start time for the mayor's directive. Eateries can only do takeout or delivery. HPD says officers will first warn businesses to comply, but they can issue fines and even make arrests.
And as we mentioned earlier, a new curfew for the Garden Isle.
Kauai's mandatory island-wide curfew goes into effect tonight, and everyone on the island must remain in their home from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily until further notice. There are exemptions, including people commuting to and from work.
All right, since this outbreak began, the state actually says they've investigated 10 cases of price gouging. None of them turned out to be true. But our Rick Dasog went looking into exactly what's going on there. Let's check out his report he filed yesterday.
About 2 weeks ago, attorney Victor Bakke asked his staff to buy hand sanitizers for office use. After checking online at Amazon.com, they found half a dozen bottles for sale for about $7. But they were shocked to find that the mainland reseller was charging $500 to $1,000 for shipping.
We were shocked and we were outraged, and to a certain extent, we recognize, wait a minute, this is probably illegal. This is probably price gouging.
During a declared emergency like the coronavirus crisis, prices are legally frozen. Markups to take advantage of desperate customers is illegal gouging. But it's not gouging if a retailer sells products that are usually discounted from the full retail price. Consumer watchdogs and retail experts say price gouging is happening, but rarely by traditional retailers, but online or on the black market.
I myself had a friend who bought a thing of wipes, and when she figured out the price once she got it, it was $1.30 a wipe.
We are hearing, some people have been selling things out of the back of their car on the black market, so it's just really unfortunate that they're making such a profit in such a troubling time.
While there are often rumors of price gouging during emergencies, there are very few cases documented at established retailers. The reason is the penalties are so stiff. The fines for price gouging in Hawaii range from $500 a day for each violation to as much as $10,000 a day. And there's another deterrent.
A lot of times it's public shaming. You do it, it's all over social media, and nobody wants that kind of negative publicity.
That means businesses and pandemic entrepreneurs should think twice before they take advantage of consumers.
Rick Dasog, Hawaii News Now.
Now we have an update from the Navy on the RIMPAC on the Rim of Pacific Naval Exercises, more commonly known as RIMPAC. The military says the biennial summertime event based at Pearl Harbor is still on for now, but planners and medical personnel are continuing to monitor the situation. About 24 countries are set to participate in RIMPAC. In 2018, those nations included Korea, France, Germany, and the UK, countries that now have thousands of coronavirus cases.
All right, I want to get a check of the markets because there's been another shift. The Dow is down now 4.6%. We're closing numbers here. That's 927 points. We've seen a wild ride on Wall Street the last couple of weeks. It really brings you back to the financial crisis of 2008 is what everyone compares it to. And we've been bringing that number today. We saw the worst market drop since 1980s, actually.
It's It's hard to look at your 401k and any
Yeah,
investments you have. You almost don't want to look because it's clearly going down.
There's an investigation going on about all this in Washington too, right?
That's right. Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina is asking for the Senate Ethics Committee to review his stock transactions after coming under fire for selling a large amount of stock before concerns over the coronavirus sent the U.S. markets plunging. He's one of 4 senators who made large stock sales shortly before the market started to tank. Skylar Henry has the latest from Capitol Hill.
Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina sold between $600,000 and $1.7 million worth of stock in late January and mid-February, about a week before the U.S. market started to slide, and as lawmakers started to get daily briefings about the growing health crisis in Asia. The sales came around the same time that the Republican, who chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, wrote an op-ed assuring Americans the U.S. was prepared to deal with a pandemic, and also spoke to a small group warning of severe consequences.
Otherwise,
conservative Fox News host Tucker Carlson called on Burr to either explain himself or resign.
there is no greater moral crime than betraying your country in a time of crisis.
On Twitter Thursday, Burr said Americans were already being warned and his message was to be prepared. Georgia's junior Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler, who is married to the New York Stock Exchange chairman, sold off hundreds of thousands of dollars in stock starting in late January. On Twitter, she said her transactions were made by advisors, and she wasn't even aware of them until weeks later. The Stock Act prohibits members of Congress from profiting off of information they glean as part of their jobs, but there is no evidence the senators had any inside information. Two other senators, Democrat Dianne Feinstein of California and Republican Jim Inhofe of Oklahoma, also sold large amounts of stock around the same time. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
All right, Mahé is continuing to work her sources. She got some news just into our newsroom.
Jonathan, remember that couple that we talked to on the Mazdam? That's the cruise ship that basically has been refused entry from several places. That's French Polynesia, also refused entry into Hilo. Now it is sitting off Honolulu where it is being allowed to restock and replenish its supplies, but the passengers aren't allowed off. Well, we talked to that Hawaii couple who say they are desperate to get off, and they were complaining that we're citizens of the United States, why don't you let us off? Well, this morning, they actually called our newsroom asking for information because they were told shortly they will learn word of what is going to happen to them. Will they be allowed to disembark? And at this point, they are still waiting for word, as are we.
Yeah, and you think of it as, you don't even think that there'd be members of our state on that cruise ship, right?
That's right. It depends on how you look at this, depending on what view or what lens you have. There are people who are very anti-cruise ships right now. We heard rumblings in the community that there were going to be protests against cruise ships. At the same time, the state has said that this particular cruise ship the passengers cannot disembark, but that the supplies can be replenished and it can continue to go on along its way.
And we have an updated web story on this on our website, on our H&N Digital platform, so check it out there if you want to learn more information about that. We'll be updating it with the information Mahé gathers throughout the day and our other reporters as well. Wanted to tell you about this because Americans are getting a little extra time to do their taxes, 3 months exactly. Announced today, the taxes are now not going to be due on the traditional April 15th. It's moving to July 15th. Refunds are still on the way, folks, so you'll get those if you do file. Feds are saying they're going to try to get them out as fast as possible so people can use that money that we all know everyone needs. But keep in mind, states vary. So we have a lot of mainland viewers out here, and here locally, those states may change theirs, they may not. So just keep that in mind. Check it out with that website that is appropriate for your state. All right, we got another story coming up, really about the human toll of all this.
Yeah, that's right. The numbers associated with the pandemic are thousands of individuals and their families dealing with heartbreak, isolation, and in some cases, grief. CBS News correspondent David Benoit is focusing on some of those stories.
A fourth member of a family who lives in the northeastern part of the U.S. has died from coronavirus. 7 members of the Fusco family have all tested positive for the virus. Meanwhile, in Southern California, one of the youngest individuals to contract the virus has passed away. 34-year-old Jeffrey Gazarian, a cancer survivor who had recently visited Disney World and Universal Studios in Florida, died Thursday in California. Also in California, there were images of another patient in an isolation chamber being loaded off of a private jet by workers in hazmat suits.
Of course, he was very, very anxious.
The 65-year-old patient was transported to Los Angeles from Aruba, where he tested positive for the virus. The flight was chartered by Jet Rescue Air Ambulance and was lined in plastic. 2 pilots, a doctor, and a paramedic were on board.
We basically started an IV and sedated him so that he would go sleeping all the way in the chamber because it could be very difficult to be inside of it.
We are putting all of our healthcare workers at the front line. Some of them are going to get sick.
In New York, medical student Ruth Howell has seen the human suffering firsthand.
There are a lot of people out there who have a lung disease or high blood pressure or something else that's weakened their immune system. They're more vulnerable to this.
David Begnaud, CBS News, New York.
And that information continues to come in. Mejia's got another update. A lot of people worried about how certain populations are going to get fed. We've seen school shut down, so there's no school lunch program. A lot of kids depend on those lunches, and now they're worrying about our seniors too, right?
That's right, Jonathan. Well, we do know that the DOE said that they are going to be doing a grab and go for the school lunches for those who need it. And we're just getting word of what's called Malama Meals for Kupuna. I mean, our Kupuna, they are at risk. And so many of the businesses are really coming together to help these people out. And I wanted to just give a shout out to Uncle Glenn's Hawaiian Food in Kaneohe. So they have said that they are proud to announce we are able to provide a free meal for high need kupuna. And so you must be 59 years old or older with financial need, and you must live in Kaneohe, Kahalu'u, or Waiahole. And so this is just an example of how community businesses, they're coming together during this time of crisis. I mean, people are feeling very dark right now. And so there are these bright spots in the community that really give us hope for the future, especially that they are taking care of our most vulnerable populations.
And just local businesses out there too. You got to just feel for not being able to provide their normal dine-in services. That all started today as we reported, but I'm seeing across the community people posting different sort of images on Instagram and pictures saying, hey, I'm still shopping local, I got my food delivered tonight, there's this sale happening here, there's this sale happening here, they deliver now. I mean, it's changed everything.
Everyone has to be much more dynamic and certainly flexible, because things seem to change minute by minute, hour by hour, and this is what happens in a crisis. And people come together, they innovate, and they move forward. And that is the shining ray of light in this whole situation. Is you hope that there's going to be a lot of positive things that will come out of it.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's take you outside. We're looking at our traffic cameras. Hey, folks, look at that. It's eastbound lanes. It's like way different than it normally looks on a midday, right?
It seems like the traffic is even better than on a Sunday. It's really easy to commute right now.
It is. And the weather's looking pretty nice out there as well. Let's check in real fast with Guy Hoggy to get a check of what the weather is going to shape up to be this weekend.
Happy Aloha Friday. I'm Guy Hoggy with your HawaiiNewsNow.com forecast. We're saying aloha goodbye to that stormy disturbance that brought flooding conditions as well as thunderstorms to many parts of the state. It's pulling away. However, a trailing cloud band is pulling up behind it, and it's embedded with a few showers, mainly over the east end of the state, but rainfall totals are going to be basically insignificant. So as you head into the weekend, you can expect a few showers and breezy winds, especially starting on Sunday. And on Sunday, those Kona winds shift to the east, and trade wind weather will come in. Now today, the winds will be soft and scrambled, mostly under 15 miles an hour, and that will lead to some afternoon cloud buildups as well as some good surf conditions up in the country. Now the waves are small this morning, but they're going to get bigger by late this afternoon, and borderline high surf advisory level surf 8 to 12 feet, 6 to 9 down on the west side, peaking tonight and holding firm through tomorrow. So the country is going to be smoking good. And remember, most beaches, all the beach parks are closed across the state until further notice. So we've got light Kona winds today, stronger Kona winds on Saturday, and then trade winds take over on Sunday. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
We're talking a little bit ago about some of those little glimmers of hopes and we'll call them positives that are coming out of this whole situation. One of those being our Earths and the pollution levels that are happening out there. You know, our Cindy Palm of CBS News went looking into how that's all being impacted. She filed this report. Let's listen into what she had to say.
The world-famous canals in Venice are usually teeming with tourists in gondolas. But now that the Italian government closed the country to visitors and told residents to stay home to slow the spread of COVID-19, the usual murky waters have turned crystal clear. The canal is definitely clearer, this resident says. Small fish can even be spotted swimming beneath the surface. Pollution is dropping rapidly in cities around the world. In New York, researchers saw carbon emissions from cars and trucks fall nearly 50% compared to this time last year.
How surprised were you about this drastic decline in pollution?
So we were really surprised. That's happened over the past week. It will be interesting to see if that continues.
In China, satellite images show a 40% drop in air pollution in major cities after authorities issued travel bans and closed factories.
I think a lot of people only now appreciate how clean cities can be. And it's up to us to demand what we want from our governments in coming back to want to keep it clean.
But climate analysts warn the dip in pollution is likely temporary.
As the outbreak gets more under control and economic activity continues to comes back up, we'll see these emissions rise again.
But for now, experts say the positive news about pollution may be one of the only silver linings to the growing pandemic. Cindy Palm, CBS News, London.
This year's NCAA basketball tournament was called off due to the coronavirus pandemic, but to fill the void, CBS has come up with a way for you to get somewhat of a March Madness fix.
Please.
According to the NCAA, CBS is going to re-air some classic March Madness games starting this weekend on Saturday, Sunday, and then next week, Saturday. 3 games will air each day. They include 8 national title contests and 1 Elite 8 matchup, all from the 80s and 90s.
Cool.
Wow, you might as well just put your 80s and 90s outfits just to get ready for that. Check
That's
your
an
local
idea.
cable listings
That's a
for the
great
showtimes.
idea.
Get those acid wash jeans
Yes,
out. Yeah, and
biker shorts.
coveralls. Don't forget the coveralls.
One strap down. One strap down.
Okay.
Yes.
And fluorescent, yes.
Oh, I'm in. I love me some vintage. All right, one of those items everyone's talking about this is so hard to find, the all-important toilet paper in this crisis, but we hear that could be changing. Michael George, CBS News, went looking for answers on that. He filed this report.
At stores everywhere, shoppers see this. Shelves that usually hold toilet paper wiped clean.
It's a little ridiculous. Like, why?
Shelves were empty. It's like 4 per person.
Other stores are limiting customers to only 2, if you're lucky enough to find any. It's become so bad, the police in Newport, Oregon posted this plea on Facebook. It's hard to believe that we even have to post this. Do not call 911 just because you ran out of toilet paper.
This is not a supply issue. This is a demand issue.
Scott Luton from Supply Chain Now says manufacturers have ramped up production and are getting TP to stores faster. But panic buying is keeping shelves empty.
We've got to resist hoarding. Buy what you need and use what you buy.
The rush on TP is a surprise benefit to small businesses. Many are suddenly swamped with orders.
I think it's something that folks desperately don't want to be without.
Aaron Dodds is CEO of the luxury toilet paper brand Peach, which ships direct to subscribers. He says business has been on a roll since stores ran out.
We started seeing sales go through the roof. So the amount of new subscribers that we get in a month, we were getting every hour.
Dodds is speeding up production to meet the sudden demand.
Replenishment will happen. So fear not, our supply chains are very strong.
And Luton says when the panic buying ends, aisles will quickly be flush with TP again. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
A lot of local events changing because of all of this. One of those was supposed to air on our networks tonight. Some big changes to that, right?
Yeah, that's right. As you already know, Jonathan, Kamehameha Schools made the difficult decision to cancel its 100th anniversary of song contest. And I can tell you as a KS91 grad, it's hard for me to say, but of course, everyone was so disappointed, but knew that this was the right decision given our current climate, especially because the students, all of the high school students, had composed their own songs in regards to Aloha Aina. So instead, what they've done is they've made special programming that airs on KGMB tonight, starting from 7 p.m. all the way to 10 p.m. tonight, and it's going to be looking back at the past ho'ikes. It's going to be looking back at past song contests. It's going to be a celebration of Kamehameha School Song Contest. And, you know, I just had some conversations with some of the students, and they said, yes, we are very disappointed and heartbroken, but we are resilient and we will move forward past this. And it really gave me so much pride to see these leaders in the community with this kind of thought process.
This would have been the 100th anniversary, right?
100th anniversary.
Well, things are changing around here on H&N as well. We've been mentioning this, but we're practicing our social distancing. I'm not giving you the hand.
No.
Just testing our distance. There's also all sorts of changes around our newsroom. I just wanted to mention them so that you guys know we're taking precautions as well. This is just me on the way to the newsroom today. Outside, if you see the picture on the right, I'll start there actually. You see those newspapers on the ground? I come into work around 9 o'clock every single day until this week. Those newspapers were taken. Someone grabs them, but no one wants to touch them anymore.
Right.
So they sit outside all day. And then on the left, you can see there's a sign right at our front door that says UPS and the Postal Service, leave your packages in the lobby. We're really trying to contain our newsroom as much as possible. Even where we are sitting right now, right to the left of us, there's a door. That's where our master control operation is. That's where all the programs and commercials get out of. That is completely zoned off. No one is allowed in that room at all, except for the people who normally work there. So a lot of changes everywhere happening.
That's right. And tonight when you watch the evening newscast with Keahi and Steph and myself as well, you know, normally you have the two anchors sitting close to each other. And then over the past few days, the two anchors have been literally 12 feet apart. And starting tonight, there's going to be basically solo anchor shows. So it's just going to be the solo anchor and then Weather with Jennifer Robbins. And so we are trying to keep our distance. I felt like I said goodbye to some of my co-anchors yesterday, but it's just some of the things you have to do to be safe. Jonathan, I had my first virtual workout this morning.
Yes.
I was like, I need to get some exercise. And you know, everyone's stressed out and eating and, you know, downing ice cream. And so I've been seeing a lot of messages of it's time to get healthy. So I did my F45 workout this morning. I've been seeing Zumba Jen of Hawaii Kai. She has Zumba classes every day. And so she's been doing her Zumba classes online. So you can see them on her Facebook page. And it's really a way for the community to stay healthy and fit throughout all of this.
And then another thing that's changed here is the dress code. And I keep
dress
seeing
code.
You can see it, I have shorts on. But that's the rule change here. That's temporary.
Yeah, but see, I still have to go out into the public, so I'm just wearing my regular news
you always
clothes.
look lovely regardless, even when you're in your workout stuff.
Thanks.
So, yes. You guys, we have so much news ahead of us for this afternoon. So much planned. And I know there's a press conference with Mayor Caldwell coming up this afternoon. I'm pretty sure we're going to carry that live on our digital platforms. If not, we'll have a summarize of exactly what happened on our website shortly thereafter. Mahia, what are you working on this afternoon? You're talking to someone who's recovered, right?
That's right. I am going to be talking to Dan Tyson. You have to think back, into February. Remember this? February seems so long ago, but Dan Tyson and his wife were the two Hawaii residents on the Diamond Princess cruise ship that was docked off Yokohama in Japan. And so they got sick with coronavirus. They then were admitted into Saitama, which is a hospital in Japan. So they stayed there, recovered for several weeks. They have been cleared by their doctors. After they were cleared by their doctors, then they went to the mother-in-law's house to recover. They've been back here in Hawaii now for several weeks, and I'm going to be talking to him about their entire experience, and they are happy to be well and healthy now.
And we need to really start telling those stories too, because as we keep mentioning, so many people have recovered from this virus, and we need to let people know about that as well. You guys look forward to those stories coming up tonight on H&N. Until then, we'll see you soon.